Productivity, the podcast where strategic minds meet pixelated worlds. I'm your host, Nico Penguin, leveling up your productivity both in game and IRL in real life. Prepare to unlock achievements in focus, motivation, and real world success. Let's dive into the game changing strategies that redefine how gamers approach life. Now, joining us in the digital realm is Mario Tarosso Jose, a polymath of web and game development. With a background as a former web developer at Just Move In, per the last time that he was with us on this podcast, and now currently shaping a virtual landscape at Frontier, Mario's expertise extends beyond code as he's a visionary in server game development. Beyond his professional ventures, Mario is the maester behind the Dev Realm, a YouTube haven for game developers of all stripes. From illuminating tutorials to community camaraderie, Mario's channel bridges the gap from coding novices to seasoned experts. Today, we delve into the boundless world of Mario's experiences, insights, and the creative tapestry that he weaves in both code and gaming. So, thank you so much, Mario, for joining us
Thank,
today.
thank you very much, Nick. I appreciate it to be here, and let's make the gaming world a better place.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And before I even get to the questions that I wanna ask and that I pre-researched and whatnot, I want you to please describe what is the server game management or the server game development or whatever it is that you're doing now at Frontier. What kind of game development is that? And is it the same thing that you're doing on the game on the dev realm, or is there any difference there?
Yeah. So the server part is basically why the player don't see it. So it's something that it was more related to what I was doing before, like as a web developer. So let's say that you have to log in on the game. So let's say you're trying to play FIFA or whatever, you didn't have a login
Hmm.
screen, and then oh, can you please type your email and things like this? So that information goes to a server, and that's
Yep.
basically what I do in the background. So I get your email, your password. I make sure that security, like we safely secure, encrypt, and all that stuff on a database. And then
Hmm.
we can use that data to give you like some information, things like let's say how many goals you score or how many items do you
Right.
have, what's your level. So every time you log into a new application, you load all that data on it. So it's basically managing all the things that player don't see it. So because you have a couple of different things, let's say you have an item on your game which we call client,
Hmm.
and you have the same item on the server, but the server is always validating, saying okay, this player has this item. So that's what I do. Like
Hmm.
I make sure all your login stuff, validations and passwords and reset things goes through the server. I keep track of your inventory and send you back. That's basically, I think, a best way of describing that.
And that was drastically different than what you were doing at the Just Move In.
To be honest, it was pretty much the same thing. Like a login screen from let's say Facebook page to
Right.
a game page is the same thing. You still send the
Yes.
password.
The access. It's like a ping. You're still pinging a packet. You're still sending a packet ping to the an IP address and asking, do these credentials allow access to this packet of data? Right.
Yeah, exactly. Like, for example, when you log in on your Xbox or when you log in on a browser, they're the same server, exactly the same server.
Right.
It's just the way they behave is different. Like, of course, you're gonna have some different authentication method for the client we call the game console, but in
Hmm.
essence, they go through the same process to yeah, exactly the same thing.
Now, what made you decide to do a YouTube channel describing the complicated and simple manners of web development in 3D and trying to showcase it to everybody that's trying to learn it to individuals that have already been learning it?
Yeah, so the channel, the Dev Realm, I had an idea after I we had the last our last podcast together. So I was kind of doing some courses and stuff, and I was often finding very complicated tutorials, like people trying to explain things in a very complicated way. And I was like, man, I think there's a better way of doing this. So I had the idea of like, in order for me to learn, I was gonna say, okay, I'm gonna go with those crazy ideas, like how to create an inventory system or chat system or whatever, and then I'm gonna learn it, and I'm gonna create a video series explaining people how to create their own as well, but in a very simplified way. So the dev realm born in a way of like, let's make all this complicated stuff easy as possible. So all the videos, they
Right.
try to be very, very like easy for people to follow through, and
Mhm.
I try to cover most, like all the topics I can, but in a very easy way to follow. Right now, they're focused on Unreal Engine, but eventually, I want to put things, anything related to game, of course, but things like how can you create a login page or how can you interact with the server. Yeah, that's the whole idea, just to make sure the gaming parts is accessible for beginners as much as possible.
But that's for the individuals that are trying to make the creation, no?
Yeah, yeah, for everyone that wants to learn.
Yeah, because with the ability to go into a empty blank canvas and create, you're essentially providing the blueprint for them to do so.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, there's, for example, the other day I did a series about how to create a chat system. There was a lot of people. Yeah, man, I was trying to look for this and how to implement a chat system in my game. And the cool thing about it is that I try to do, as we call, modular as possible. So you can finish the project. I also give the source code at the end of it, but you can, in essence, just strip feature by feature, and all the tutorials that you go with me, they're all separate. So you can just pick parts of them and then assemble
Hmm.
everything together. So as you say, you have a blank canvas, and you go, you know what? I'm going to create an RTS game. So how do I do this? Just follow this tutorial. You get that component, you put it on your game, and then the idea is that to work.
Oh no, that's perfect, and that just makes me want to reread the description that I have for you here, so that way individuals can go and click on the link in the description to go and watch your channel if that's what they're looking for. Dive into the intricate world of game development and coding mastery with Mario's YouTube channel, The Dev Realm. Whether you're a novice or an expert, Mario's tutorials unveil the secrets of coding 3D games, making complex concepts accessible for all skill levels. Join the community of game developers from beginners to seasoned pros and level up your coding game. Subscribe now and venture into the dev realm for a thrilling journey of pixels, code, and creativity.
Yeah, sounds good.
What made you decide on the dev realm for a name? I mean, obviously, dev is developer, but what made you put that together?
So I was looking for like expiring name and some things to come to mind, and I was looking for. So there's I'm also a web developer. So there's a series called Laracast, a website called Laracast, that they do
Hmm.
some amazing tutorials and things how to use the application. And I kind of looked the formats they have, and I was like, this is cool, but there's nothing similar for this for games, right? So
Hmm.
I found that I was playing Zelda that time,
Hmm.
Zelda Breath of the Wild, and there was something about you need to look for the realm, and I was like,
Right.
dev. I was like, the dev realm. I was like, you know what? Sounds really cool. So I went to check if
Wow.
people had some similar names. It was
Yep.
free. It was like nobody had that
Woo.
mark. I was like, you know what?
Yes.
That's the time. So
That's the best feeling.
yeah, and the this is like a project I have back, is like to I want to create a I'm gonna create a website where it's in progress right now, but to is mainly gonna be a subscription that you're gonna have access to some premium courses, from creating simple games to like complex systems and stuff. But it's something it takes a while to process. But that's the idea of the dev realm, is to make sure everyone's a game developer. Doesn't matter how old you are or how complicated is it, you can do it.
Oh, well, that's great. Now, reflecting on your journey since our last interview, what profound lessons have you learned about yourself as a developer and now as a content creator?
Oh yeah, so make a plan. That's the first one. Just make sure you have a plan. Posting schedule videos is very complicated. But I would say people that like I think you just keep trying. Like if it's your passion, like in my case, for moments I was thinking that I'll never land a job on the game industry. But I was keep trying, keep having no's and yes and no's, like keep doing interviews and stuff. Eventually, you're gonna have someone that's gonna give you the opportunity. And thanks, like Frontier, they give me this opportunity to. It's my first time as a game developer working for like let's say a big company.
Right.
But persistence, and also consistency is like the advice I give to people if they want to keep looking for the role. Like it doesn't matter how many no's it's gonna get. It doesn't matter if your will is stronger than your will to fail. Then yeah, you're gonna find something um, to work with. And now related to content creation, I would say that I think for me, I have a background as a developer, so I came up with a plan, like a structure, which helped me a lot.
Hmm.
So my YouTube channel now is all automated with AI and all sorts of stuff. So I'm using all sorts of creative solutions because it's so many things you have to manage. Social
Do you
media.
use your own voice?
Yes, I use my own voice. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, because I was like, I'm pretty sure I heard your voice on there. Like,
No, but that's
I
me.
took a listen.
I'm
Yeah,
talking.
yeah. I was like, that was your voice. Okay, okay. I was like, I heard your voice on there. You didn't automate that.
No, not yet. Nah, it's because I think you know this, but like I just want to focus on the content. I don't want to care too much
Right, right,
about
right.
social media, the post, the structure. I just
Hmm.
want to make sure people have a good time watching video. Um,
Right.
Even the editing as well sometimes is like very like you need to time it properly, so you spend a lot of time refining that.
Hmm.
But yeah, just have a plan and organize your content creation and have like right now I have some content for like a 2 months ahead. So but you always have to keep gearing up what you're gonna do next, what you're gonna do next. So I always have like a notepad saying, okay, I'm gonna do a tutorial about this and keep writing stuff that I come along the way.
So, how do you navigate the balance between artistic creativity and technical precision?
Okay. Um, I think they go well together because when you're creating, for example, there was a tutorial that people liked it a lot about modular cars. Was right when Zelda came up, the new one, the Tears of the Kingdom. So that one was like, you know what? What if I create? What if you have a system that can build a car using technical and also the idea, right, the artistic part of it. So I came up with a concept, and I just tried to find a balance between okay, this idea is good, but how can I implement it and make it easy to people to follow? So I think it's just you need to find the ideas that are not too overcomplicated to someone who is just starting with, or what you also it also depends how what you want to learn as well. Like because for me it's a learning
Right.
process. When I'm doing those tutorials, most of the time I don't know how that's gonna end up because I never done that before. I'm learning on the process. So it's because
Hmm.
it's something I want to do, but at the same time, okay, this looks very complicated, so let's simplify that a lot, that feature.
Right.
Yeah.
No, no, that does make sense. And how do you make that effective balance over and over and over and over again? Because as a web developer and as a game developer, I can only imagine that you're running across those constant situations time and time again where you have to decide, okay, do I want to make this look pretty? Do I want to make this usable? Do I want to have this kind of feature on it? And now you have to balance between that artistic desire to want to make it look better, but then you also have to have that technical precision. It's like, well, if I want to make it look better or run smoother, I gotta, add some more codes in there. I gotta be a little bit more tech
Polished.
on it,
Yeah.
and that's gonna drain way more of your resources and time and efforts. And how do you continuously make those decisions time and time again?
So for tutorials, I try to be really like not short, but like straight to the point. So for example, if because if you let's say you want to do a polish of the thing, the feature you're doing. Sometimes you're doing a tutorial that has like I don't know, 30 parts, right, or 20 parts or whatever, which is a lot.
Hmm.
Each video is like 15 minutes.
Right.
So if you want to polish that a lot, you're gonna do the double of that. So I think it's just finding the balance. Like,
Mm.
okay, has this person had enough? Uh, because normally UI is something that I don't polish a lot unless I'm doing a strict series about it. I just do the basic, just boxes, and say, if you guys want to, polish these a little bit, you just spend some time on this. Even the code as well. As I go through the code, I do as quick as I can, but of
Hmm.
course explaining and commenting every part, and then say, uh, I pause the video, or I just do a quick explanation saying, yeah, you guys now here you can actually strict this part like this, and then you can take your time to comment this code because this is going to be beneficial to you in the future. But because I'm just bashing through, I just want to say the concept. Sometimes, if it's a very complicated feature, yes, you have to spend some time building that because otherwise you won't the
Hmm.
person won't understand it. But if it's something
Right.
that's just display a text or something, you can just bash it out and then you say, yeah, if you guys want to spend some time on this, just do it. But I would say if you have a complex feature, you spend some time on it. If you have something simple, just you don't need to. It's just understandable to the user or to the customer, like this way, the learner.
So you essentially defer when you can to the person who is giving you the task at hand.
Yeah, pretty much. Like if I know that for me, because I used to be I didn't know Unreal Engine or I didn't know coding before, so I know when something is
Right.
complicated, and I say this feature is complicated, so let's spend some time on this. Uh, it's just getting that knowledge. You get that knowledge as you go, as you learn more about coding and stuff, because you see what you done as a mistake before, and you say, yeah, that person definitely gonna get stuck in here. But sometimes you get stuff in the comments saying, hey, I think on this part you missed something. So what I try to do sometimes is just do some follow up video about some specific feature as well. That helps. I had that in the past.
And so you've had to at times make decisions on teams where you have to choose between the feasibility of a feature versus how it runs and how it looks, and everybody is essentially trying to decide or vote, or does somebody just say, hey, you know what, we don't care how it looks, we just need it to run, or somebody else is like, hey, we don't care if it's a little bit slow, we just need it to look the part, and it sometimes it breaks the team spirit, or what ends up happening in those situations.
So in those situations, uh, I think is a lot of feedback helps a lot. Like what they actually they they're looking for, because as you say, sometimes you have idea in your head, like yeah, it works
Hmm.
for you is easy, but then some you actually forgot there's some people they're just like, yeah, but they never, it's the first time they open the program or the first time they're trying to do something like this. So that
Hmm.
extra feedback helps. But I always try to do something very slow. Like I try to, sometimes I even over explain some things that I notice
Okay.
and just explaining that.
Okay, no, no worries. And then because you mentioned last time that you were on Udemy, I want to clear up. Are you still on Udemy, or you phased that part out of the equation?
So Udemy is still there. I still have my course in there if people want to check
Okay,
out.
okay.
I'm not posting any new videos on that. It's just because I literally don't have the time to post on that platform as well. But they still there. They still I do some support when I can on it. But I'm mainly shifting to my channel, and then eventually, if I manage to release the platform, there'll be the platform and the channel. So the idea is like the channel is gonna be all the free stuff. It's just gonna be more, this is me. This is what I do. If you guys want to check some more high end content, just check the platform.
Okay, it was to set up to ask, since you were at that time explaining to us at the first instance that you came that you were sharing your coding knowledge there. I wanted to ask if you could give us insight, if you were able to remember any instance where a student's success, you were able to know about, whether it was something small that they stated that you did for them, or whether it was something big that you were able to assist them with, or if you weren't able to ever have that kind of a feedback from the prior course takers.
Yeah, I mean, I had some on Udemy. I had a guy who sent me, thank you very much. It was really useful for your, the support, your everything you did on the course is really helpful. Which was, and then it was really good to see that something that I did actually have impact on that guy. Also, I have on my YouTube channel as well some people come and say, "Hey, man, this is really cool feature. I appreciate it." I mean, I think everyone is like so far is really pleased about it, which is really interesting to me because I wasn't sure if people would like the kind of stuff, but it was
Hmm.
really cool to see people like actually saying, "Hey, this feature is really cool. I want to see you doing something like this. When I want to give you this idea." Or sometimes people go, "Hey, can you help me with this?" Just jump on Discord and do something else. So yeah, I had a couple of instances that, and that's what makes the channel, keeps going. Because when you start, you don't have anything, but you just want to make
Right.
people, happy, and you want to be happy, and everything you're teaching, want to make sure you make a difference for the people.
Now, from when you were very active in doing the hands-on at Udemy, what would you say was your most fun or amazing thing that you learned about either yourself or about something in coding? Because I've always been known that when you teach somebody or when you're creating content, when you're creating some instructions for somebody, you have to almost learn it twice
Yeah.
yourself because you have the current knowledge plus that you're trying to tell somebody in a way. So what would you say is like the most fun or the most amazing knowledge that you learned either about yourself or about coding while trying to teach your students?
I think I learned how to. So first, when my first course was how to create an inventory system, and I didn't know anything about it. Like I literally opened an engine and say how people create inventory stuff, right? So I done that course because I have done a guy like was following a course before, and then a guy was really complicated in explaining things along the way. I kind of got him most of the idea,
Hmm.
and I was like, okay, now I have an inventory system. How can I make this better? And then I
Right.
started to create my own course, and then from that I create my own asset, which was really really helpful to other people. So that's the learning curve is like how you can make sure that's professional, right? How can you create a solid uh, project, let's say.
Right.
That's it. Yeah, like how can you make that a solid project for the people to use, and how can you use that to yourself, right? How can you sell it? How can you rebrand it? How can you help people with that?
So breaking down the project essentially to very small bits.
Yes, yeah, like in structure wise, yeah. If I'm structuring the if I would structure something, yeah, make sure you have write down paper, or you have a
Hmm.
like what you wanted to do. You could also have some one thing that helped me as well is just to have some, draw on a paper like how do you want to look at it. Like in this
Mm.
case was just the inventory system. I had some games that I based on, or some things that I was based on. Like for example, when I was working on the chat system, I wanted to work like World of Warcraft. So
Hmm.
that was the idea. So you just start to draw, and then you create your features, you write on the paper. Should I do profanity check? Should I do, I don't know, stuff on it? So just break it down and make sure you write down because you're gonna forget what you're doing.
You really are, and you're gonna remember 70% more if you simply write it down.
Yeah, and also feedbacks as well really help. Once you do something bad, that doesn't mean that's a mistake. Like people when they do, I have some issues sending feedbacks, like negative feedbacks. But it's because it's stuff you missed. You don't know, like you never done this before, and then you just use that
Right.
to the next project to say, okay, now I'm going to structure this better. Yeah.
How do you go about receiving your feedback?
I mean, I think that the negative feedbacks they're hard, but sometimes you need them to make sure that the quality of your product is good. Because if everyone tells you good all the time, you're gonna believe it,
You're lying.
and then you're gonna be like doing some crappy thing, just horrible design. But when like the other day, I had a guy on one of my assets that he put like some not negative feedback, but honest feedback, saying, "Hey man, your
Mhm.
documentation is not good or something." And I was like, "Yeah, that's really rubbish. So I think it's time to update that." So I use that to
Right.
update the feedback, the everything, and just I thrive, let's say, on a negative feedback. I think is sometimes you need to have that to make sure you go in the right direction because it's really easy to get lost sometimes with just generic stuff. So yeah.
Now, when you have your indie studio, how do you set up your studio to receive, or your channel? How do you set yourselves up to receive the feedback? Do you have like some sort of like a email or contact where you're like, hey, if you have any suggestions, any feedback inquiries, feel free to reach me out here? Or how do you have it set up so that way somebody can reach out to you after a project or during a project in case they want to clarify something with you?
Yeah, so we have set up a Discord channel, and the Discord channel is the main one. Like I always put in the video. If anyone have any question, just go on the channel and just say, "Hey, man, I need help with this," and then from there we just
Mm.
sort it out because it's really easy that you just have an open channel. People can go there and then they just we have some rules, but all the rules is just basically don't swear in the chat. That's all, and respect everyone. But yeah, the main channel, the
Uh,
Discord channel.
Uh, oh no, that's great. That's great. That makes it very easy and transparent to get a hold of you, as well as if you are looking for game development, you want resources, you already know where to go.
Yeah.
Now, are there any specific coding or gaming philosophies that you adhere to? And if so, how do they contribute to the unique flavor of your work? And if not, why not?
Right. I would say my philosophy is simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. I think that's a
Yeesh.
that's a I
Okay.
read that one. So most of the developers they try to be like I noticed this work with people and myself sometimes we try to overcomplicate it, over engineer some things, and then that thing go off the rails, and then it just becomes a massive headache. So what I start to do, like working wise, every when I can, or also personal projects, is just make sure you always go on the easy and simple, effective way. Don't try to
Hmm.
overcomplicate it a feature just because you think it's going to be good. Like most of the time, you'll be fine just by going simple. So yeah, just try to be because if you do something complex, you're gonna have to go back. Like you always need to think: if I come back to this project in the next 6 months, am I gonna be able to understand this? Most of the time, you're
Hmm.
probably gonna be like, no. But that's why you
Hmm.
have to add comments. Just try to make it organized and simple. Just organization simplicity.
Dang, that's actually pretty interesting. It makes you think. Simplicity that enables you to create very complex games. That's for me. It feels such like an oxymoron. Like it's just like two opposite. Like simplicity in a complex game. Like, please elaborate further. I'm not wrapping my head around that.
Well, I don't know. Like, let's say, okay, God of War. Let's get God of War, right? God of War is a very complex project. There's many things going on that, but I'm pretty sure that if you want to create your own game base, let's say you're trying to do a Dark Souls game or something, like
Hmm.
you just need to think feature by feature, like and try to make sure there are content on the same container. Like let's say you're trying to create, for example, when the player takes damage, it
Hmm.
plays an animation, right? So just on that, you
Mm.
have the animation mechanics, you have the damage mechanics, you have the health mechanics. So you have a lot of stuff to start to pile up. You have the weapon, you have the everything. So how do you do? Like first you isolate the features. You do okay. Let's do a animation. So when something happened, we trigger this animation. Once that's out of the way, you created what we call API from that, kind of like you can use that feature you created when you want. And then once
Hmm.
that's done, you create a health bar. And then the health bar, you also need the UI. So you do the UI first. Then you integrate those two pieces together. Once that's all working, you create the damage system, which is also another feature. So when you think on the whole scope is complex, right? You have a lot of stuff going on. But when you start to write down a paper, you don't have that much stuff to do. You just have the UI, you have the health bar, you have just to think in a logic. What I'm going to do first, make sure they are all work on their own, and then you can integrate themselves. And that's what complexity comes. Like all this, everything is simple, but when it's complex, when it's everything working together. Not sure if that explains well, but
Yeah, yeah, it's essentially like the concept of, Rome was not built in a day. It's just taking, small little grains of progress and just depicting them one on top of the other, and that's eventually how you can build, a huge pyramid full of knowledge, full of features, full of different rules, so to speak, and that way the game or the website, whatever feature you're trying to do, can actually make it to the light of day because of the consistent workflow that is being created and crafted on a very small, meticulous manner, right?
yeah, that word you say consistency is really important as well. Like as you say, like if every project is complex, like think about a banking system. How complex is that? That's insane. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Right.
But when you isolate every feature, everything start to make sense. That's why those
Hmm.
huge companies, they have all those a lot of people working different areas because they all can working like that's why you're able to finish a triple A game in 2 years because you have a lot of people working different areas. But when you work on your own, you need to keep that in mind. Like it's just you working on your game, so you need to know what you should do first. Also, you need to also like manage what kind of bugs you should care, what kind of bugs you shouldn't care, because most of the time things like wow, the weapon is clipping to my arm, like yeah, whatever. People don't care about that kind of stuff. They just want to make sure that the mechanics is working properly. So yeah, complexity is just you just need to simplify everything to make sure everything works and have a plan, right? Just have a roadmap is really important.
Now that makes me think about when you mentioned the bugs in the game. Okay, so riddle me this. Are bugs created by the developers, or are those like viruses that are unintended? Because there's glitches where people take advantage, and I've heard, I don't know, and this is a gaming channel, so a clarification would be very, very nice to have. I've heard that essentially the game developers create these glitches on purpose, and they sell out these cheat codes and these hacks to other individuals. But then you just mentioned something that went almost as if it's an unintended consequence of the code that's being created. So I just wanted to get some clarification on that if possible.
Yeah, yeah, sure. I think related to game developers creating a bug or something to sell to exploit. I think that like for triple A companies, that's hard. I don't think a lot of people
Mm,
will do that because the amount of certifications and checks they do is crazy, and they fail as well. Each like for example, if you have a company like those triple A companies when they have to release a big game, and they have a feature, let's say you have some kind of a market, let's say Apex Legends, right? You have some kind of market or something buying stuff.
right.
If they do some feature to exploit that, they once like one the company's gonna lose money, but they're
Hmm.
gonna fail certification. So I think it's very unlikely for big games this to happen. What most of the times that happen is poorly management. Sometimes some people, some projects are done in a rush, so that leads to developer rushing features, and that create
Mm,
exploits. People, just they don't do an extra check, or they didn't check what happened if I have a candle holding a cheese bar or something. that will
right.
that will break the game. um, so that rush as well, and also sometimes I think it could be a lack of testing. They haven't tested that properly, or the also just bad luck. Just a lot. They did the test, everything was done properly, correctly, and then the developer just like uh, didn't they didn't uh, prevent the outcome. Like most of like those games, like for example, let's say Assassin's Creed, when the
Hmm.
QA team are testing a game, they spend like hundreds of hours in the same mission. So they do the same mission hundreds of hours to test every possible thing. What happened if I go here? What happened if I kill this guy? And then just keep just testing all that stuff. But when you say related to bugs, bugs related to like a virus, um, if you have some kind of online services, that probably could happen. Let's say you have let's say let's get World of Warcraft. That's a great example.
Hmm.
Some time ago, I don't remember when, they had like some kind of a buff in the game. They go to a raid, you kill a boss, and that boss gives you like a disease in the game, right? He gives like a poison thing. That poison spreads to other players, and every time it spreads, sorry, it refreshes the cooldown, so it adds cooldown. So what happened is that they end up filling up the whole server with that like with that kind of poison, so it infected everyone in the server, causing a massive glitch. This was like a famous thing. So that's example of like they haven't thought
Wow.
about that, you know, like that's not bug, it's just the developers like, yeah, I think this is a cool idea, and then they just blow up the whole server.
Now, when something like that happens, is that a bad thing for the company?
I mean, it's a great story. Um, I think
I
it's.
know the developer must be like getting hot, like, ooh, man, is my job on the line right now? What's going on?
I mean, I don't think it's. I mean, if they approve, everyone approved, everyone was in a agreement. I think it's just the case. Yeah, guys, we fucked up. We're gonna just reset the server. As it's also a good learning experience, because those kind of things are good because it's like an airplane crash. Like every time an airplane crashes or something, they always have some feature, like something that fails that they used to build a new aircraft, so they prevent that in the future.
Right.
So you can use the same concept in the game. Like that's another extra step that we're gonna do on the QA phase to make sure that we don't have that bug happening again. But the thing is, when you're creating stuff on your own, then you are the QA, and that's hard. That's really hard to manage because you have to test your own features, and also it's like hard to retest your own code because imagining like you're playing a chess game, right? So when you have two players playing the chess, but the person who is outside the game who's not playing always have a better vision of it because he's not
Right.
under pressure. It doesn't have all the stuff to
Right.
handle. So because you're
Right.
also addicted to your own game, okay, if I do this, this is gonna happen. So it's hard to manage. That's why you have to sometimes ask people to test your game, like, or sometimes you don't see it, how bad is it, because you're kind of addicted to it. That's why taking times as well, like taking weeks off, sometimes it helps, on my case at least. uh just working on a feature for, let's say, a month, like, yeah, there's a lot of bugs, just take a week off, and then once you come back, you're like, oh my gosh, what the hell is this Christmas tree, something.
Yeah, there was this saying that I heard that goes like, when you're too close to the trees, you fail to see the forest.
Yeah, yeah, that's
And so when you're too close to the individual tree, you aren't able to see the bigger picture. And in this case, because you're too close to your specific project, you're coddling it. It's your little baby. You made it. You worked so many hours. You put your blood, sweat, and tears. You use all the lessons that you learned from the dev realm, and all the lessons that you learned from the Udemy courses, and you put your blood, sweat, and tears on it. And when somebody says, "Hey, there's something wrong with it," you're like, "What? It's nothing wrong with it. What are you
what are you
talking
talking
about?
about, man? That's my baby
It's
project.
perfect. Like, I'm gonna sell it for $70 a piece. It's gonna be the it's like, do you even have a contract with Steam? I don't need Steam. I'm an indie game developer. I watch the videos. You can make $200,000 a year if you sell it for $70. And if you take $10,000 and put it into Google ads, yeah, you're gonna make a lot of money. This is the kind of individual that's just waiting, just waiting for their opportunity, so that way they can go and put $10,000 in Google ads. And yeah, I'm gonna send them all to my $50 website that I made with my own skills. And I put 10,000 hours into this game. It's gonna be amazing. How dare you say it's not good? This is going to the market right now because of that blasphemy.
And then you end up with a massive pile, just
And then you're like,
wires.
nobody buys it. You wasted all this money on marketing. You wasted a website, and it could have been good. You could have improved it if you took that advice, that harsh reality check. And you know what? This is not ready yet for publication. Let me listen to what this person has to say. Let me take a look at what they say. Oh, they said line 18 was not good, or in this part of the game, this and this doesn't work. because it's really hard to take that harsh criticism, or at least to a creative, it sounds harsh, like they're completely stomping on everything that you've done. But in reality, they're really trying to foster your creativity to actually be viable in the real world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just accept reality, right? Just accept feedback, and just sometimes you have to step out of the project and say, yeah, this doesn't look good. Let's rebuild this feature. I think you have to be really, you need to criticize yourself a lot when you're doing stuff,
Mm,
because let's say, I don't know, sometimes you like, it looks good enough, but it's actually perfect. Sometimes I'm not sure you should. I'm not saying that you should spend a lot of time trying to perfect something. Like if you own your own, you're not gonna do a triple wave thing. It's quite, there's a lot of people working on that, but that doesn't mean that you're gonna do a bad job, right? Just do something. Just do what you can. Just refine where you can the parts and ask for help, or ask for people to test it, and just criticize yourself when it comes to the project.
so we should essentially be our first critic and harshest critic, essentially. If we
Yes,
want to
just
do, if we want to create something in this world, we have to be our harshest critic.
yeah, yeah. Need to be the worst, like imagine your worst boss you ever had. You had to be that guy talking to yourself.
Man, yeah, because if you can tolerate the worst part of yourself, then when somebody gives you a compliment, it's gonna seem like a ray of sunshine that's bleeding through the darkness.
Yeah. And also don't try to be too much, like don't be glorious, like don't go crazy. To be realistic, okay? Just like, okay, I'm not gonna create an MMO where you can buy a plot of land and create a universe for myself. Like, can you do that? Yeah, sure, you can do that. But like you're gonna have a hard time managing yourself. Just think small. Yeah.
No, that's so funny. It's like taking a jab at all the crypto developers and all the metaverse worlds and all that. And that makes me think, what has been your experience in the web development phase as well as the game development phase? And have you ever encountered a crypto team? Have you ever submitted an application to a crypto game or a behind the scenes development like that? And if so, how was that? And if not, why not?
So yeah, so that's a complicated topic, let's say. But the first time I heard about the metaverse, I was like, huh, so this is just a video game where you can do whatever you want. Because if you check like Facebook when they come up with a metaverse, to be honest, was a really crap graphics where, like, I
Hmm.
don't know, you have way better games than that. But for me, it was like always that thing looked like a scam. It doesn't look like a game because it's
Right.
just people trying to create some kind of and it's just money. There's no fun. It's just money. It's just, I want to make some
Hmm.
cash. I want to cash out money. I want to sell this plot of land. I want to sell my Ethereum card or whatever. So at the end of the day, it's not, you're not having fun. Like that's not what games about. Like games about fun. Fun is about like you being able to play a gameplay or something. I'm not saying you can or can't do this stuff, but the
Hmm.
mechanic is always first. The fun of the player is always first. Like
Right.
I'm playing a game because I want to have fun. I don't want to play a game because I want to have a trading situation, right? Which is in essence what it should be about it. Like, but now I had some people offering like crypto jobs, and like also have some people saying, "Oh, can you build me a crypto website and things like this?"
Right.
But it's always like sketchy. It's always so dodgy because those things they
Hmm.
rise and fall on the same day. Like the other day,
Right. Right.
there was a coin that was looking, because I look crypto as well sometimes. It's insane. Like there's a crypto that just released. That thing goes to 3,000, like I don't know, 3 million pounds or $3 million, whatever, and the things just keep
Right.
doing like this. And you're like, what the hell is happening to this? It's just a scam. But like for me, like having a metaverse. I mean, if you want to build it, go for it. I'm sure there's a lot of fun things you can do with it. The metaverse idea is not bad. Like you can do a lot of stuff with it, but it's just the whole greedy part, just the money thing that always scare me off a little bit. Because you already pay for the game, you're gonna have to pay for a land inside a virtual world. Just why are you gonna do that?
So you're saying that in order to hire you, they gotta pay 10 times your normal rate?
Oh yeah, because it's very sketchy. We don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Is that, hey, this is sketchy. I don't know how this gonna be in
It's very
regulation,
dodgy.
so you better pay me up front before we even start talking. Cause
Yeah, just pay
what?
me like a year in advance. So if you go bust, it's fine.
I I completely understand. Looking at all these companies and whatnot makes a developer not think about the longevity. Now, in the same breath, now Apple Vision Pros came out, bringing to the mainstream world augmented reality and virtual reality to the masses, and with it bringing a whole new generation of web development and game development like that. And so just like that, your job is going to be that much harder because you're going to be tasked with having to do coding and web development and game development in this new digital realm. So how are you going to either transition into this new medium? Are you going to start like having to either go back to school or study to stay up to that level, or are you going to still be focusing on your specific niche and not even focus on what the market or what the world or new technologies of tomorrow are doing now?
Yeah, I think the VR technology, AR technology, they're really cool. I think there's something like for games. I think they are amazing. Like you can do a lot of stuff with it. For example, I was playing like when I had a VR, Alex Half Life, the Half Life Alex, which is really impressive.
Hmm, hmm.
You can reload the weapon, you can see the monster here in front of you. So, in terms of development for those kind of technologies, or even the Apple one that come up, which is really impressive, is really cool what you can do with it. It's just you need to find your niche, right? Like what kind of game you want to do, because realistically, you don't want to play, let's say, a God of War in a VR. You're gonna have a hard time doing that. Like you probably could, but you want
A
to.
hard time or a heart attack when you have like a minion or something jump at you, a harpy just scream at you, or Hades just try to like
Rip your
grab you.
heart
Like
off or something.
what? You're like, oh my goodness, like woo, woo,
Because sometimes
woo.
you
I don't
just,
know if that was in,
yeah, you just want to
it's
smash some
real.
buttons, right?
Yeah, like you just mash buttons. Imagine Hades in your face in 8K with the
uh,
spatial audio. What? It's gonna feel real. Like
By
ooh.
the way, the Resident Evil non VR is insane, man. Don't play that
Oh,
thing on the evening. You're gonna go crazy. You're gonna shoot your
I can only
blinders. You're
imagine.
just gonna go crazy. Um, yeah, but going back to that, like VR is really cool for VR and AR as well. Augmented reality. It's cool for some certain niches. Like let's say it would be nice to have your own digital version of your desk. Let's say you're cooking something. You have a, I don't know, VR headset on it. That could be cool. Like it's teaching you how to do a recipe and things like this.
Right,
That would
right.
be a really cool thing to do. Or let's say you're trying to, I don't know, fix your car. So you just put your VR headset on it and just try to fix your car, and it tells you what to do, what pieces to use. So that's an example of how you could do this, which it feels like a game. It's just a very high end game that you have to use. But I think you always gonna have the technology, at least for VR, is not quite there yet. I feel that you have a lot of people getting motion sickness because of it.
Right.
I still think there's have like maybe at least 5 years to get up to the point where you feel very comfortable in it because of the refresh rates they have, or I know the new Apple one is really good, but that's a AR thing, so it's more augmented reality around you. It's not really a game, not inside a game. But in terms of developing for those features, they are the same concepts you would use for like you don't need to go back to uni. It's just at the end of the day, it's just a new set of tools that you have to
Hmm.
learn about it. Like it's just a new set of APIs, how you're going to implement it, those kind of things. So in terms of development, it's quite pretty straightforward. You just need to have the hardware, and you just need to have a good idea for it. Now, in terms for me, like what I'm gonna do, I think if I have a VR headset or a VR game idea, I'll definitely do it. I think it's a challenge. It's a new thing to do. It's cool, it's something that you could also tell an awesome story on that. You could, you can do a horror game or you can do a story, but allow it. But there's always, for me, I think the normal way of creating games, like you're sitting on a chair, watching the story passing through. Like you can do a lot of stuff with that as well. So I think you need to find what you want to do. Like if you want to go to VR, go for it. If you want to go to just the standard game, just go for it. But I would think that the standard game will still be here for a long time. I don't think it will be just replaced for VR everything, because there's still people like sick of playing those games if they don't feel unwell. They feel unwell, sorry, playing that.
So you're not gonna have like a augmented division or virtual reality division in your indie studio focusing on that, because if you mentioned that it's only 5 years away for it to actually be a little bit more mainstream, theoretically, wouldn't that mean if you start now coding for that particular niche, once it does start picking up mainstream, you'd be cementing yourself as a niche leader, and you can literally usher in a new digital era in terms of not just your indie company, but if you decide to actually make your company fixate itself on where technology is going to be, and you're doing this with your coding and your indie company, and technology is going this, then once you have that technology capability of coding what the augmented reality or virtual reality landscape looks like, they're going to be looking for specific apps, specific usability, whether it's in the web area or whether it's in the game area. If you already know what you're doing now, like, oh, yeah, I can just do this, but in the augmented reality sphere, and then, in 3 or 4 years, start having game testers, then wouldn't that mean that you'd be setting yourself up to be a frontier? Or am I just radically thinking?
I think so, yeah. Like it's because right now it's like you need to understand like what I'm gonna use this for, right? Like
Mhm.
I mean, you can do for anything really. People can do for medical stuff, car fixing cars or games and stuff. Uh, like you just need to have your scope. Like what do you want to do? Like do you want to you just want to focus on that? You want to focus on that as well. But for me right now, I think is more learning how to use like those gaming engines, because I
Mhm.
think eventually we're gonna have a merge. They're gonna merge together. So what you learn for a computer is gonna be used for a VR for sure. Like Unreal engines like this is already, like you already
Right.
have augmented reality in Unreal. I'm pretty sure is not far away from being exported to the Apple headset or to HoloLens, Microsoft, for example. So I think that those technologies they will be used in the future. But like right now, I think my main focus will be just creating small assets and small pieces of projects to help not only myself as I create a game, just a normal linear game, but for other peoples as well. I would say just for me, it will be just focusing on creating linear games for now. And then once the technology maybe advance a little bit, then I could probably start to look at the VR, because it's not a big jump for the development perspective. It's just we just switch something small. We're just having
So
an
yeah, it's like
idea.
a different language, or different. It's like having a different legend in a cryptograph.
Yeah,
Like once you, it's like, oh, this is the language of this game, or this is the language of this system. Oh, it's easy peasy. It's like once you know one language of gaming, coding, programming, learning the next one, it's just like switching a few codes here and there, and now you're doing the same thing, but just in a different box, so to speak.
yeah, yeah, pretty much. Just switching the key.
And so would you do the same thing of double focusing on web development as well as game development in a virtual reality or augmented reality, or would you be focusing much more on the game development aspect?
I would say I think games. I see VR being beneficial for games. I don't see myself using a web browser instead of VR. like I don't know, accessing my bank account in a VR. I don't
Didn't you see the metaverse where they had the virtual reality meeting and they're like, "Hey, welcome to the meeting." You don't think it's gonna be useful?
imagine doing stand up, like in a company stand up. Hey guys, yesterday I worked on this, just bubble heads and stuff. That,
5,000 miles away from you.
I mean, I don't know. Like that for me, that's insane. I don't see myself. I mean, like for a company's perspective, like how I don't know. Like, would you do that if you just go on a meeting like with your VR? Like, I prefer to go in person, see, have a human connection. Like, I see a VR
Right.
at the moment as a gaming playground. Like, or
Like Half-Life kind of game.
yeah, like you know, it's just something that takes you out of this world and put you something like immersive. You know, put you
Hmm.
in a zombie game. You can be a hero. You can be whatever. But like when
What? What a zombie game? What was that game that comes from Steam?
comes from Steam,
Uh, 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 People thought that the Half-Life was gonna be the third iteration. Um, Left 4 Dead.
Left 4 Dead. Yeah, Left 4 Dead.
Wouldn't that be great if Steam made Left 4 Dead 3
VR.
a virtual
Yeah,
reality or augmented reality kind of game
but
where you're like actually seeing those zombies?
the thing is like to get to that level, you need you know, you need to run, you need to you need to be able to move. You just don't want to, you know, because you're gonna be like, you know, like that's the hard part of VR. Like the games that we have right now, you're just standing, right? Otherwise, you're gonna bump
Right,
your head in
right,
the
right.
wall. You're gonna break a TV, like I did in my VR.
Oh Lord. Oh man.
So yeah, it's a hard time. But yeah, I think VR still has that a little bit more to go. A little bit more to go. But yeah, I think right now if you could focus in creating applications for that, yeah, go for it. You know, but I don't. For me right now, I don't see. It's just because I'm focused on games at the moment, and also the hardware is very expensive. So most of the people they won't be able to access that as well. So you have to think about like most of the people right now they have a computer. They're not gonna have a VR as well when you're
Right.
creating a game. So your platform right now, if you want to let's say make money, if you're just thinking about money, let's
Yeah,
say
your targeted
yeah,
audience.
like
Yeah.
let's create a mobile game. Everyone has a phone, so let's do that. Like yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Also, that's a cool factor as well. We have to think about it because I'm going to spend 5K to do a VR game, and then one people going to play, which is me, and then it's like, oh no,
Right.
yep,
Versus if you put that same amount of effort and money into a web game or into a mobile
mobile.
game, you have a bigger audience as well as a bigger likelihood that even a $500 ad run on that game, whether it's a PC or whether it's mobile, you can actually get actual traction.
Hmm.
Especially if you think about like hiring a marketing agency that can actually help you from having absolutely nobody know what game you're doing to actually,
Exactly.
it's launch day and you have a couple of people who have already told you that they're waiting for the game to be downloaded. So that's actually pretty interesting that you bring us such an amazing perspective on game development as well as web development. And for my last question, I want to ask you, what aspirations do you hold for your own life journey in these dynamic fields? If you're able to give us some of your own personal aspirations or goals that you're trying to meet or dreams.
Yeah, I think the dream is always to like the reason why I go into develop game development or web development, any kind of development, is because when you have that feeling they create something and then you see that thing running, you're like, yes, I done that thing. So that keeps you moving, right?
Mm-hmm.
And after a while, I always wanted to create a game of my own. So I want to create I want to tell a story. I want people to play that. I want people to have their own, you know, go to my world, which is my game. Just go to that place and have, you know, or amazing story or have amazing mechanic. Just spend some time with that. So
Right.
you know, because games art and it is a way of expressing yourself. You know, because you have music, you have anything on it. So my goal is to at some point create a game, and I'm working on it. It's just there's a lot of stuff going on. You have to set up assets that I'm creating to I'm going to reuse. Actually, this is a cool thing. Like I'm using those assets that I'm creating on my that
Mm-hmm.
I'm selling. I'm using that so people can tell me what's going wrong with that. so I can apply that to my game in the future. So it's a way of testing that as well. So my goal is that I have another goal as well, which is to create this learning platform for people. Like I want to generally teach game development in an easy way. I want people to learn and say, like this, this impossible thing you see in here. That's not really hard to do. You can actually do that quite easily once you structure. So I want to create my own platform and get people to learn, and also teaching, as you say, is a learning experience. I want to teach and learn at the same time. So that's another goal that I have. Yeah, and also have my own indie studio some points, like up and running properly.
Hey, no, that's amazing that you have all these aspirations, and I know you have the capability to do so. If you were able to send a lot of applications to be a game developer, even if you're the behind the scenes server guy, that is still a huge win, because to be able to enter any company and manage any server for any game is really incredible, as well as for all that you've done. Thank you so much for coming aboard today, because that concludes another epic episode of A Gamer's Guide to Productivity. So, a special thanks to everybody that listened to this episode. Special thanks to you for coming out and providing all this amazing content, as well as showing us some of the behind the scenes of your actual game and web development journey.
Well,
And for everybody that tuned in, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, because if you enjoyed leveling up your skills, then you should just let us know that you found this enjoyable. And if you like Mario and you want to know more about his journey, or if you want to know anything more about his game development videos, tutorials, the behind the scenes, how he gets it done, it's actually scrolling at the bottom of the video. If you're audio only, this is youtube.com/slash the dev realm. That's TheDevralm. Until next time, keep gaming smart, stay productive, and may your quest be ever victorious. I'm going to leave one last word from Mario in case you got something else you want to add before we wrap it up.
now I just want to say thank you very much for bringing me here again. I always appreciate it to come here and tell my stories, and I hope this helps people that are trying to learn game development. Thank you very much, Nico.
Oh, of course. This is Nico Penguin signing off on A Gamer's Guide to Productivity. Well, I'm out.